My name's Casey Wagen, also known as Wagen, W-A-G-E-N. I'm here with my boy Rob. We are having
How you doing?
deep discussions about current affairs. I feel like these are discussions that a lot of people aren't having. If they are, then I think they should do like us and kind of get the word out there about how we can actually make this country a good country again. We were once the best. We have since fallen behind. We've pissed off a lot of people. We've started a lot of illegal wars. We've allowed slavery to continue. I mean, these things got to change. So we're here to talk about some of these issues today.
My name is Rob. Hi guys. Yeah, everything he said. We're going to be doing what's called a round table. We're going to have three topics. We're kind of testing it out. We're going to do three topics and just kind of, gauge a little bit of perspective about all three of those topics, and then see where it takes us, just in terms of conversation or debate.
Exactly.
All right, so Casey, what's the first
up?
topic?
Currency, man. Got to be about the money. So, a lot of people don't realize this, but to make a long story short, our money that we have today, which is printed on cotton, is not what we used to have as money. In fact, we go to war over actual money, which is silver and gold. And silver and gold is sold by weight. So you buy an ounce, a troy ounce they call it, and you can have different purities. Or you buy, a big brick of it, 5, 10, 20 pounds, and get it stamped. You all have all seen Italian Job, how they ripped off the safe, fell into the water, they ripped off the safe, they pulled out the gold bars, they told the dude the number, he forgot to move the decimal, and he was like, oh my gosh, this is like $34 million or something like that. And it was just about that many gold bars. And
Right.
so that's how people actually used to do money before we had a fiat currency, which is this legal tender, which isn't backed by gold. It used to be. It used to be a certificate. So instead of carrying around big gold bars everywhere, you'd go get a certificate from a banker saying, I'm good for this. And people would travel with that. They put all their gold into one bill and slip it in their boot and travel across the United States.
Well, so how would you destabilize the Federal Reserve to implement what you want to happen?
Start using silver and gold. What we could do is start using silver and gold and picking silver and gold that means something to you. Start bartering with silver and gold.
But what if you're a person that doesn't believe in using silver and gold as currency anymore?
I would say you're plugged into the system.
Why?
Because silver and gold is better than cash.
How?
Cash is, it's just cotton.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna start selling it in its weight in cotton because that's what it's worth.
Well, and the reason I ask is because I'm kind of gauging you and playing the devil's advocate a little bit, because I think that if I'm a person that wants to implement a new system, I have to first know what is wrong with the old system and know how to
All right.
you get where I'm going with it.
So the way this works is that a private company, not the U.S. government, doesn't own its own currency. These are banking cartels that have set themselves up. You should read A Creature from Jekyll Island. These are banking cartels that.
What was the name of that book?
A Creature from Jekyll Island, or The Creature from Jekyll Island.
Okay.
It talks about all this stuff. They own other currencies too, and they loan money to the U.S. government at interest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what our taxes, our income tax, that's what it goes to pay for, is the interest on the money owed to the bank. So they rent, it's like they give us $1, but they say you owe me $1.25.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way to bridge that gap is to collect income taxes. Now, see, the interesting thing about income taxes is the amendment to do income tax was never officially ratified.
Mm-hmm.
So it's an illegal tax. Taxation literally is theft.
Well, I guess depending on what perspective you're looking at that in, we all need roads, we all need schools, we all need libraries, we all need police departments. So I wouldn't say I wouldn't say that the popular opinion of the income tax is that it's an illegal tax. I would say that it's an obsolete tax. I think that a national sales tax or like a fair tax code
See,
should be implemented, like
yeah.
at a national level. Like I do believe our national tax code does need to be rewritten.
Yeah. I think we should go back to a flat sales tax. So, and no loopholes. So if a billionaire wants to buy 6 yachts, he's going to pay back to the community on those 6 yachts.
Right, and then the idea over it is you want everybody to be on the same, or I would want everybody to be on the same playing field when it comes economically, or when it comes to commerce versus agriculture. I would want everybody to be on the same playing field, whether I'm a small business owner or I'm a big business owner. And I think that, like, as while we're on the tax code, or at least establishing a new currency, I think that implementing a national sales tax would be the most, in my opinion, the most fair way to assess everybody across the board: small business owners, big business owners.
Abolish property taxes too.
Right.
Because people pay off their homes, and then they still pay on property tax, which in Texas, depending on the size of the home, could be $4,000 or $5,000. So here you are thinking, and it's like a year instead of a month, but. And here you are thinking, like, I got my house paid off, but I'm basically still paying, $300, $400, $500 a month, whatever their tax is, to pay for their tax.
But see, here's my thing. Like, I don't think that property tax needs to be just done away with. I think that there's local municipalities that run a city that they need that city to be making money and to be giving at least a portion of it to them, so that they can keep the city thriving.
What you do though is you tax business. You get businesses in there to generate millions or even billions of dollars, and then you allow them to feed back into those social programs, the police, the schools, different things like that. We could also start capitalizing on new industries and bringing them out of the black market, including cannabis and other things.
Well, okay. So you said that. Yeah, I think the first part of what you said is that we should tax. We should when it comes to eradicating the property tax, instead tax business on sales. And what was your? I'm trying to hear. What was your end? Pass me the mic after you answer this. What was the end game? What was the end result of what you were trying to explain? The concept.
I was just basically saying, if you have a group of people or an industry that's generating funds in your municipality, that it would be beneficial to collect funds off of that industry. And even as a small business owner, let's say, I start a dispensary, or I start a press company, or I start a journalist company, or whatever I'm going to end up doing, or whatever it is I'm doing right now, then basically I don't have a problem, especially if I'm gaining an income from that, paying that back to the city, so that we've got safe streets, safe schools, safe businesses,
But here, okay. The question that I have for you is why make that the responsibility of the private sector? Why not make that the responsibility of the government?
Because it just makes your government too big. If you really, like, I have truly Republican values. The Republicans nowadays are Republicans in name only. We call them rhinos. And that's exactly what they are. And they're stubborn. They're stubborn. So a true Republican value is small government. And I don't see either playing field with Clinton or Trump talking about, even Johnson really, talking about, Johnson wants to end the Federal Reserve, and he wants to bring the troops home, decrease military spending, do a couple things like that. And he balanced the budget in New Mexico, which was good. But Johnson's the only one, and Jill Stein are the only people that are actually talking about a government that's smaller. I can't vote for Trump or Clinton because both of them want a bigger government. They just disagree on how they want the government big. Trump wants to build a wall, which would be a lot of funds from taxpayers' money.
Okay. Well, so I think we've already segued into our next topic. It sounds like. Trump versus Clinton. That's an election topic. Well, let's first wrap a taste on currency. The reason I was asking those questions is I wanted to again gauge your opinion on why it should be the responsibility of the private sector and not the government to take care of the people. It's in the Constitution that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that's all responsibility of the government to guarantee the people. Like that's like they taught us, they teach us in school now, our natural rights. We're born with those rights. So in my opinion, it's the responsibility of the federal government to protect us, or protect those rights, and anything that puts those rights and those natural rights in jeopardy is their responsibility.
Yeah.
That's just my last little 2 cents on it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to talk life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, I've written a blog about this, but life would include things like overturning abortion. Even as a libertarian, I believe in a pro-life stance. I believe that we should lessen the restrictions for people to adopt children, to open up orphanages, to provide some sort of service for the needy, especially the homeless, needy children. And I think that should be an initiative that young entrepreneurs should take on. Generation Y and Generation X entrepreneurs should stand up to the plate and say, hey, I've got, $1 million or $2 sitting back. I'm going to do this, and I think if especially the older generation sees that sort of responsibility and leadership in our generation, I think the world we're looking at could be very different in the next 5 years.
All right, next topic is, well, you gave it to us, Trump versus Clinton. The whole general election, and I want to take a step back. I, in my opinion, am not a fan, and I like the fact that we're holding the mic now and passing it back and forth. You're right, that was probably the better move.
You're welcome.
I really...
As a suggestion,
Oh.
you should turn off your phone. Like, I'm sitting here listening to you, and it's hard for me to even listen to you with your music in the background.
Well, it appears we have an audience member saying you should turn your phone down or off.
It's your call. It's easier for me to watch and listen to you if that's all I had to listen to.
Here, I'll turn
She
it
says she likes what we have to say, but she can't hear it very well. So I guess we're kind of getting a backhanded compliment. Thank you, Jen. That's KC's wife, Jen. We're trying to get her on board on our round table as we try it out today.
Yeah, she's got a lot of good things to say.
Absolutely, we'll definitely cut to that later.
I learned some stuff the last time I didn't know about my wife.
So Trump versus Clinton, and let's take a step back with that and just talk about the general election for a minute. I really, in my opinion, I believe we need a second option or an alternative option to voting. I don't think that the election process that we have is enough to affect change. And I mean, I'm by myself, so I might as well just say it to the camera. I don't think it's enough to affect change. The voting process that we have, that it's enough. Now, I'll never tell people not to go and vote, but I will always say that we need another option. And what I mean by that is, I think if at a local level, a state level, and at a national level, if an individual or a group of individuals or a collective or whatever decide they're not voting, hasn't gotten what they want to happen, the influence that they're trying to push forward on the community to happen, then the next step needs to be hitting them in the wallets. It needs to be boycotting. It needs to be there need to be protests, and we'll talk about that later. Yeah, and there needs to be a reform, and that's what the founding fathers, I have to believe, not that they were right on every political topic, but here, freedom of speech and just protecting people's rights, they were right on that one. And but just to close on it, I really think that it's our right to protest, and it's our right to boycott, and it's our right to challenge the establishment.
It's all right to make videos.
Yeah, it's our right to challenge the establishment and say that we're not going to just rely on voting to affect the change we want. We're also going to, if we don't see it, we're going to see who's funding who, or where's the money going. We're going to follow the trail, and we're going to take notes, and we're going to reform based off of what we come up with.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. Right on. I think I think there's a lot of people hungry for it too. I think people are ready for a change. I think they're tired of the same old stuff, the status quo. I think a lot of people are just they're ramped up. You know, I've only been around for 30 years, but this political session has been one of the most intense political sessions I've ever seen. I mean, come to think of it, Johnson may actually be the first time in a long time a third party person wins it. All he's got to do, no, hear me out. All he's got to do is take his home state of New Mexico, and he will block, as long as the Electoral College cooperates, he will block Trump and Clinton from 270 votes, which is needed to be elected president. When that happens, when he takes his home state of New Mexico, it's going to default to the House of Representatives, which is a Republican majority House of Representatives that has spoken of much disdain of Trump and of Clinton, including Speaker of the House Paul Ryan. So Speaker of the House Paul Ryan could seriously stand up and say, guys, we got to go with Johnson.
Okay. Here's why I don't believe that is the most likely outcome. Even though I understand and respect the view of not just U.S. Ooh, I believe that's the pizza. That caught me off guard. I ain't gonna lie. Like, hey, that I felt a twitch off of that because the dogs don't like me very much yet. They haven't learned who I am.
Well, the one was beat, so.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I'm just recollecting. Anyway, okay. The perspective that Gary Johnson, through multiple technicalities, could become president is I think what I heard you to speak of.
Likely scenario.
Yeah. Oh, one likely scenario. I agree. The reason why I don't believe that's going to happen is because I think enough has come out about Gary Johnson's politics, or at least his, inability to catch on. I mean, like, I don't want to attack the man's credibility. I don't think he's a bad candidate.
Jen, bring that over here.
And I think that he's ultimately I don't think he's a bad candidate. I think he's a viable candidate if you take away the fact that there is a two-party system that is a conglomerate when it comes to elections. I think he's a viable candidate on his policies, but it's like he's being made a clown.
Well, even if he's being made a clown because his words get twisted around. I mean, he doesn't lie, He doesn't stand up and just be like, I know everything about this culture and I know everything about these people and everything about this language and everything about their religion and we bomb them, just fucking bomb them. Like he's actually like, hey man, maybe I should call somebody because I don't really know. Like whenever he gets a cabinet of advisors, he's going to be unstoppable, and he's going to balance the budget. He's going to actually deal with immigration. Because not only in immigration, not only do we have terrorists trying to come over, but we have people fleeing persecution and war. I mean, people coming here from nations and from cities like Somalia or like Mogadishu or Kabul or wherever that they sleep on the floor at night because people come through their neighborhoods and fire fully automatic 50 cals through their house, and they're just coming to America looking for a fresh start. And so he understands that as being a former governor of a border state. And that's one of the reasons why I think especially his immigration policy is one of the strongest out there.
Okay, and I think it's good that you went with his immigration policy, that he does have a strong, or at least fair policy. And I like his angle with drug policy and immigration, and also with taxes. I believe he's a proponent for a sales tax, or at least to some degree is pushing for reform of our current tax code. But I'll say this: he's not my candidate of choice because I personally support Jill Stein.
Okay.
But I mean, I'm more.
I can dig that.
I don't know. I'm trying to be progressive because I believe a woman should be president, and I think that it's great that we can live in a country, where we can have a black president, and then back to back we can possibly, vote for the first female president. Yeah. But I don't really, I don't really think it has to be Clinton. I don't think it has to be. I don't really want to attack her credibility at all or try to find a reason to. I know there's enough people out there that can do it, but I mean, I just think that it doesn't have to be her. But on top of that, I also think that Jill Stein has a strong stance on marijuana, which does tie into immigration, which does tie into the border security and whatnot, all the things that we hear Trump talk about.
Yeah.
She talks about that. Well, she talks about it from an offensive standpoint. Montel Williams said it. We can stop 30% of the illegal trafficking at the border just by flipping the switch and legalizing marijuana.
That's all we gotta do.
I mean, like, what, in my opinion, what's taken us so long, to just get to that point where, I mean, we're about there. Let's just be real. We're about there.
Not just marijuana. I mean, we could legalize cocaine. We could legalize heroin. I mean, fentanyl is legal. I mean, if fentanyl can be legal, why can't heroin be legal? I mean, it's basically the same shit. It's just fentanyl's even stronger, and it killed Prince. So I mean, we got and cannabis should be legal because it hadn't killed anybody through just strict use. I mean, I don't know. It baffles me how. I don't know. I don't even know the words to describe right now.
Well, it's okay. It's a topic, the presidential election, and then I kind of sold my perspective a little short voting for Jill Stein because I don't claim to be an expert by any means on her politics, but I mean honestly, I think that marijuana legalization or drug policy reform is at least a top 3 issue in this country, and I stand by the candidate that says, look, we need to deal with this now. At least I won't cater to Trump or Clinton, or kneel to them, on these topics. But I'll say when it comes to social justice, when it comes to immigration, when you hear them mention it, it is, in my opinion, a good thing that someone is at least putting it out there and making it an opinion, and making it an issue to be talked about, which will segue us into our final topic, kneeling during the national anthem. Okay, the only example that I have to go off of, no, that's not the only example, I'm sorry. The example I choose to go off of is with the athletes, with how the athletes are protesting and how they're just, exercising their First Amendment to affect change in, like we've been talking about this whole time with currency and then with the election. We're talking about influencing and affecting change. And my prime example that I always go to is Colin Kaepernick and how he kneels during the national anthem. Thank you. I don't as a veteran believe that more people need to keep kneeling per se. Like, I don't necessarily support the action as opposed to supporting the motivation. I support the radicalism. I'll forever support the radicalism because John Carlos, I believe in 1968 Olympics, I believe he rose a fist. It was a Black Panther salute, because he was winning medals for a country that didn't even, want to give him the same rights to drink at a water fountain as, a white person. Mm-hmm. So sometimes you got to affect change in a radical way, and I support that. It's very creative. Some people choose to hold hands in the NBA. I've been noticing WNBA and the the male NBA. They've now started engaging in hand-holding, and then in the NFL, we've started to see more of that. There's multiple different aspects in how people can affect change, and I think people are at least looking at the Colin Kaepernick situation, his movement of kneeling during the national anthem, as a way to say, well, I'm going to affect change in either that same way or in a different way.
See, not standing during the national anthem hits a special place in my heart because whenever I left the U.S. military, the Navy, I was leaving the USS Nashville. It was around June 5th or so of 2007. I turned and saluted, the people on watch and said, request permission to go to shore. I walked to the end of the platform and saluted the flag. And when I did, I paused for a moment. I kind of held it for a little bit longer than normal. And I thought to myself, this is the last time I will ever salute a flag. And so ever since then, whenever the national anthem comes on, I stand, but I do not cover my heart. And it has upset people. Like, I have had people pull me aside and be like, that is disrespectful to your nation. And I said, no, sir, you're saluting for the people that stood in your place. I did my time on watch. And,
Radical.
yeah. And so, I mean, that's how I feel about that.
I respect it, honestly. Thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Absolutely. I take a different angle. Instead of playing, like, I see Colin Kaepernick, I see, the NBA, the NFL in general, and how in their radical reaction, I see that as playing defense. Because what has happened so far while Colin Kaepernick has been kneeling, during the national anthem, black people have been getting killed and left in the streets. And I mean, like I said, this, do I need to say any, but like the point I'm trying to get to is I want to take an offensive stance. I want to be able to, I want to look at it this way. I was doing some research about a couple of weeks ago for an assignment for my government class. I discovered that, and I know this probably isn't news to many people who actually, do the research. The national anthem is about slavery. And there's a lyric, there's a verse. There's 4 verses total, and I believe it was the 3rd or 4th verse written by Francis Scott Key, who wrote the whole song, who was also a slave owner, or I believe a slave trader. He specifically wanted that verse put into the song. This became our national anthem. So, I believe it goes there. No one can save the hireling. No one can save the hireling and the slaves from the terror of flight or the gloom of the grave. And yet in triumph the flag will still wave. And yet in triumph the flag still waves o'er the land and the free and the home of the brave. It goes a little. So you have to look it up on the internet. Francis Scott Key, national anthem, the verse about slavery. Endorsing slavery, saying that, and I think there's more to it than that, saying that there's no way to save the slaves. There's no way to save the hireling. So, in other words, I want to take the offense, and this is the first time I've ever gotten the chance to really mention this. I want to hear, as a veteran, all of those performers at the football games, and I'm a big sports fan, or at least I'm becoming one thanks to the military. I want to hear these performers sing the national anthem, but I want to hear them sing that verse. I want to hear them sing the verse endorsing slavery. I want the world to know the history of this nation, and I want them to know that we endorsed slavery. We endorsed racism. We endorsed it. It's a part of our history. We don't need to be afraid of it anymore. I mean, am I wrong?
But slavery doesn't just affect minorities. Even white people have slaves, and even black people have slaves, and even Latinos have slaves. Like, slavery is not a racial issue, and that's where we've been getting it wrong all these years. Slavery is an issue of like ability or like freedom. It's an ability. It was like a liberty issue, Like, some people grind it out, and they're the slave to the money. They're the slave to the job. They're the slave to the, whatever it is that they're a slave to that just holds them down. People that are working, 20-hour days for pennies, for minimum wage, and they got to go rely on welfare and assistance while these big companies have billionaires that just sit back on yachts and don't do a damn thing. We need to, go after those guys and distribute funds, actually be like, you got to pay your people a good wage so that they can go buy things, so that we can actually, because rich people or business owners don't create jobs. What creates jobs is demand, and what creates demand is funds. So if we can actually pay people a livable wage, say $15 an hour, $20 an hour, then what'll happen is people will start traveling more. People will start, people will finally buy that safe and those guns that they wanted. People will finally buy that jewelry that they wanted, or that car that they wanted, or that house that they wanted. And that should trickle up too. So people making like 60,000 or 100,000, double that, triple that. And then we'll see an economy just blow up, and no longer will America be this land of forgotten hopes where the American dream was left behind.
I want to go back to, you said that slavery wasn't just about racism. I agree with that. Let me first say that. But and how it started out just within the world, it was about business. It was about power. It wasn't. Like, this is based off of the research I've learned, what I've been learning in history, my U.S. history class now. I stated what I stated in terms of kneeling during the national anthem and the verse endorsing slavery by Francis Scott Key. I brought that up to expose. In my opinion, I want to see what I want to see that do is I want to see that affect all of the patriotic red-blooded Americans that that send death threats to Colin Kaepernick, that send death threats to Doug Baldwin, that have sent death threats to people who have only wanted to question the status quo and then discuss reform. I want this to affect them, because me as a veteran, I think it's a total disservice to the nation if we don't sing the verse that really defined what kind of country we became as time evolved.
Well, and that's a really, actually, it's a very classic example of censorship. Whenever I was in high school, we had some guys come over from Europe, from Germany specifically. And whenever they were sitting in the U.S. history class, some of them got so impacted that they started crying. And the teacher asked them what's going on. And they're like, they never told us about the Holocaust in Germany. And ever since that day, I've wondered, what is the United States not telling us? You know what I'm saying? Just let this sit on that thought for a minute, and all the crimes.
You're right. Well, I think that's a good one. That's a good one to end out on. Yeah, I want transparency on both ends. I want those out there that really have a problem with Colin Kaepernick. I would like to have a conversation with those people. However, in terms of your perspective of what he's protesting versus what you believe he's protesting, what you believe he's really doing. Like those people that say that Black Lives Matter is just a bunch of racists. Yeah. It's not me necessarily saying I endorse the group. It's just me saying, that they're offering a perspective that, excuse me, they're offering a perspective that you aren't, and you have a problem with that. That's what I'm acknowledging.
Yeah, going back to that war, I wanted to comment on this earlier. Mm-hmm. Black Lives Matter is one of the things that I've been discovering as I read and things, is that, people say we're not at war here on our homeland, and it's like, no, we totally are. We got the war on drugs, we got the war on terror, we have NSA spying, and we got cops and wannabe cops gunning people down in the street because they look suspicious. You don't think we're at war? We're at war, guys. Wake up.
That was our round table, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna stop the camera and see what the playback looks like. And yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Check us out. Tell them your blog.
Best Wagen, BESTWAGEN.com. I write about these topics and many more. Just search by topic, or if you want a couple recommendations, just hit me up on Facebook. I'll throw a couple in your message box, and you can go from there.
Thanks for joining us.